Hello again, this is Cynthia from Bridget's Well in Casadega, Florida. Welcome to Major Arcana, key number 9, the Hermit. So let's talk about the Hermit in the woods. I have my little wizard out here. So the Hermit card, it can be titled differently in different decks. However, we're going to go with what's most traditional to the early 20th century. The Hermit. The light in the woods, the guide, the spiritual mentor, trusted advisor. Different levels. Could be internal. It's your own inner being. It's your own inner guidance, your own psychic capacities, your own connection to your higher self, and sort of inner divine spark. It's the thing that you align to when you are grounded and centered, spirit, mind, and body. When you're tuned in to your higher self. Externally, it can literally be a spiritual mentor, a trusted friend, an advisor. You could see it as maybe your spirit guides or spirit helpers. That's kind of crisscrossing the whole internal-external thing, right? Because we usually connect with them through our higher self, through our internal states, and bring that into our physical or external states. It could be, the protective energies of guardian angels, fairies, again, spirit guides. So the Hermit, when you get to the Hermit card in the Major Arcana, what you're really exploring is your internal connection to your own higher divine wisdom, which is always there with you and always available to you. Likewise, whether it's another person or whether it's another sort of energetic, disembodied being that you see as separate from you, like a spirit guide or a guardian angel, or again, it could be a counselor, it could be an advisor, it could be a trusted friend, that snippet of wisdom that you get from something outside of your own mind, in a sense. So, having an inspired idea, tuning into your inspiration, your divine guidance, and then turning around and sort of running it by, your bestie, right? You can have a profound moment of enlightenment or clarity in that sense. So what is the Hermit really doing in this card? What are we doing when we engage with this card? What we're doing is we're processing, right? We're processing our internal states. We're processing whether we're chewing on a problem or whether we're just meditating and trying to strengthen our inner connections. It's really about that practice of tuning in and opening up to divine guidance, whether it comes to us from going for a walk in the woods and hearing the birds singing, or comes to us from a message through another person, or maybe our own inner message. We hear our own internal voice, or we are in direct communication with our spirit guides and spirit helpers in that sense. This brings up a huge point too for our psychic intuitive connections, our spiritual journeying, And even our meditative practices. Are we tuned in? Are we processing in order to be open to receive? And that's a huge factor in this. So that's essentially where the Hermit is at, but there's more. The Hermit card in the Major Arcana is number 9. And in numerology, the number 9 represents the completion and end of a cycle when you look at the numbers from 0 to 9. So within that, there's a lot of endings and new beginnings. The vibrations of the 9 carry with it, there's usually a sense of, there can be, I should say, a sense of loss or grief or completion. And yet, the vibrations of the 9 always promise a new beginning and or some kind of almost regenerative process that even though there's a fulfillment, even though there's a completion of a cycle, the end of the chapter is not necessarily the end of the book. The epilogue is not necessarily the end of the series. There's more to be had here. And so when we're processing a 9 vibration, we need to cleanse, clear, and release. It's usually a state of transition and or transmutation. It's also a state of growth and expansion into the next new cycle. It's followed up. So after the night, there's the dawn. At the end of the day, the sun sets and the moon rises. The seasons turn. So with the endings of the 9, it's really easy to get caught up in the emotional and mental and sort of ego reactions to circumstances, to manifestations, to things that are going on around us. However, the higher vibration of the 9 is looking to our more spiritual sense. It's looking to going within, the introspection, the meditation, the spiritual aspect of the continuity of energy that's behind what we're perceiving in our lives through circumstances, through our physical reality, through whatever might be. So it's definitely a transitional period. It's not a flat out complete ending. There's a continuity with it. With that, in some traditions, the 9 also represents sort of a protection. 9 is used to invoke that feeling of safety and security and trust, spiritual trust, during times of transition, that the loss will be replaced by a greater gain, that even though we're growing and changing, we will still be ourselves. Even though certain things might be changing or transitioning or transmutating around us, that there will be continued expansion and growth, and there's protection for us available during those times. There can also be severance of things that hold us back or tie us up or limit us. So in the I Ching, in the version that I read, one of the passages pretty much states that you can choose certain limitations for yourself that will empower your growth, that will enhance how you do things, how you respond. So, like, for example, if you're changing a routine or a habit, and you accept and define certain boundaries and limitations in order to get you used to fostering the new habit or employing the new perspective, right? At the same time, there comes a point when even chosen and accepted limitations and boundaries need to grow. They can't stay the same. They need to break down or expand with the expanding energy, with the movement forward. So in that sense, that fosters the new growth. It's a lot like compost in the garden, really. Even old beliefs or our values or our priorities, they don't always necessarily change, but in their not growing or not expanding or needing to be tweaked, that's how they foster new growth. So it's like you could learn as a child to have a good work ethic, and yet when you get to a certain point in life, it's not that you have to let go of the belief that not following a particular structure means that you have a bad work ethic. It means that you have to restructure how you're doing things, maybe where your priorities are, or are you leaving time for self-care? Are you leaving time for the people in your life who are important to you, and sort of restructure and the value is still there, but it doesn't mean just one thing. It needs to expand as you grow and expand, as the circumstances in your life grow and expand. So in that sense, sometimes we have to take something that seems perfectly good and compost it so that we can get some new growth going, so that it can feed into the next era. We need to shift our perspective. We're creatures of habit, but and habits of thought and beliefs beget our karma. But if we're not constantly or attentively and deliberately clearing and changing and cycling through and letting go of what doesn't serve, and composting the things that need to be regenerated and moving forward, then we will get stuck in stagnation, and the grief and the loss and the endings will always seem greater than the blessings, the protection, the trust, the compassion. So powerful lessons with the Hermit as the number 9 and our internal guide. That's it for today. Thanks very much, and we will see you next time. We have 2 more in this series. I started on key number 12, which was the Hanged One, in some decks known as the Sacrifice. So here at number 9, we have 10 and 11 to go. I'm looking forward to discussing them with you.